Firstly, I would like to say that I'm really, really humbled to be standing on this stage to share the room and the conversation with the people that have been up here before me. Is a great honour. I've been in India twice this year. Never thought that I would be coming to India to other than have a holiday. I was invited to speak at a conference earlier this year, received a couple of awards, fell in love with the people, and here I am. I have opened my company, People Builders, now in India, and I'm back for a second trip. So thank you for your hospitality, thank you for inviting me to come along, and thank you for what I've seen so far. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to look at the time. All right, it's at the top of the hour. That makes it easy for me. I'm going to condense down a little bit what I was going to do today, just so that we can move things on and you don't miss out on what's going on. So People Builders is an organisation that I started 10 years ago. For those of you who started as a freelance trainer or, like I did, back then it was me. I was a one-man show and I did everything. Over the last 10 years, I've been blessed to develop associates and consultants that work with me, and we have organisations that we work with all throughout Australia, New Zealand and Australasia. We work with the areas of behaviour, emotions, communication, leadership, training and coaching. And part of what I do now, because I'm now 55 and at the sort of want to have some time to myself as well. Part of what I do is, through my institute, is train and develop other people to do what I do. So who am I? Firstly, I've had 35 years in developing leaders, but I've had 55 years in developing a particular leader, and that's me. Because what I want to talk to you today about is personal leadership, and I'll get into that a little bit more shortly. So, international keynote speaker, executive coach, corporate trainer, they're my credentials. I am the founder and CEO of People Builders and the Institute for Social and Emotional Intelligence Australasia, and a partner and master trainer with the About My Brain Institute. But at the end of the day, I am an ordinary guy with an outstanding wife and 5 amazing kids. That's what I want you to remember me as. Now, I've noticed that the energy's a little bit down, all right? I don't need applause, but if you're going to give applause, let's put some energy into it. So let me say that again. I'm an ordinary guy with an outstanding wife and 5 amazing kids. Let's hear the applause. See, I'm one of these speakers that's interactive, and I love doing the after lunch session. Most keynote speakers do not like the after lunch session because everyone's just had an amazing meal, eaten more of that ice cream than we should have, and they're sort of sitting there like this. All right? So you'll get more out of this if you put more into it, I promise you. But that's how I want you to remember me, that's who I am. And for those of you who want to take photos or slides or whatever, I'm going to give you a copy of my slides and I'll tell you how you can get those, so you can relax and you don't have to take notes. And what I want to talk to you about today is a topic of neuroleadership for the 21st century. We've been talking, and I've been hearing some great conversations about the challenges that you are facing in academia, in leadership, in developing the future and present leaders within your country. And let me tell you that the similar challenges that you face, I face in Australia, and so do other countries in the world that I visit. And what I want to do is share a little bit of a journey that I've been going through with this, because just like everybody else, for far too long, I was developing leaders that are in the 21st century with 20th century leadership techniques. And I say that out of no disrespect for anyone who still is. But I'm on a quest with some others, and hopefully to bring some of you with me, to change that. There was a term used earlier that I'll use again in a moment, called VUCA, and I'm glad that we had that introduced. But we need to make sure that what we're doing is up with the 21st century. We're now living in what's called the imagination age, and what I want to do is take you through the evolution of leadership and how it's changed. So we started off back in the industrial age when we had the manager, where control was power, where it was all about systems, where it was task-focused, everything was measured. It was all about the manager, I know, and there was no feedback. And we know that we've moved on from that. And then we went into the information age. And we said, well, look, we need to call these people leaders, or we need people to lead rather than to manage. Now, I have a distinction that I use that says you manage a process, yet you lead people. And in my opinion, anything to do with people is leading, it's not managing. And we all know the challenges when we mix those two together. We've moved out of this information age as well now, where knowledge was power, where you had to be the visionary and people-focused and courageous, and it was a collective, we know. And it was one-way feedback, the leader to their people. I'm very, very big on language, and there's some words that I find challenging, and one of them is staff. Does anyone know where the word staff came from? It actually came from a stick called a staff that was actually used to beat people so that they did what you wanted them to do. And that command and control type of leadership doesn't work anymore. Now, I'm not a proponent of this whole Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers, Gen Z all being different. I know there's some challenges within that. But even a baby boomer like me does not respond to command and control leadership anymore. So we've moved into this age of the neuroleader, the imagination age, where ideas become the power, where a leader becomes a creator, where it's more brain-focused, where we need to be as leaders vulnerable. And where does the information come from? Who knows? We need to find out. And feedback is multi-directional. Feedback comes to the leader, it goes from the leader, and it's coming in from everywhere. Whether it be our consumers, our clients, our customers, whatever we call them. So we've moved away from the age of information and the age of industrial. Yet, a lot of us are still stuck back there. Now, what I'm going to need you to do, what you're going to need you to do to get the maximum out of this afternoon is open that fixed mindset that you may have and look into the future and look into the current for those of us who are not yet there. Because I'm going to talk about some things that will challenge some of the norms, and it certainly did for me. As I said before, I was still training people until I worked this out. I was still training leaders using leadership techniques that were developed in the 20th century. Why did we do that? Why was I doing that? Because I got into a rut. I got into a routine. I had all this intellectual property that I put together. I was saying things like and heard things like, and I've heard it here today, not in exact words, but in some of the things that were said. Well, that's the way it gets done. But who understand the way it gets done doesn't actually work nowadays all the time. And just because that's the way it's always been done doesn't mean that's the way we should. So I had to change with everyone else. And my learned colleague sitting down the front here introduced us to the word VUCA. And VUCA is a term that was coined by the American military at the end of the Cold War to describe the new battlefield. And it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We look at what's going on around us in the world right now. We are certainly living in a VUCA world. So we need a leadership model that addresses and empowers leaders to operate in a VUCA world. If we continue to use old leadership models, this is why we have such high levels of stress, high levels of conflict, burnout, absenteeism. We've now got the new word, presenteeism, where people come to work, they're there, but they're not engaged. And in fact, the global statistics show that there's only 13% of the workforce that are actively engaged at work. And a great percentage of the rest of them are actually disengaged on purpose, looking to go somewhere else. And these things are costing organisations across the globe billions and billions of dollars. See, a leadership model, they're useful to help leaders to focus on the behaviours that matter in order to make a business profitable and sustainable. Every one of us in the room in some way, shape or form is involved in something that needs to be profitable and needs to be sustainable. So we need a model that helps to develop